You stopped reaching out. They stopped reaching out too. And now the silence is slowly consuming you because you keep wondering if they even noticed, if they truly care, or if this quiet distance is what they secretly wanted from the start. What most people never explain about that moment, when both you and your avoidant partner become completely silent, is that the story doesn't end there. It actually starts a deep and revealing emotional process that uncovers the real truth underneath everything. By the time you finish hearing this, you will understand what is really going on inside their mind during this silence, why it affects them differently as time moves forward, and most importantly, how this quiet distance becomes the moment that either pushes them to wake up or proves they were never ready to truly show up. Because what happens next is not about who sends the first message. It is about who changes and grows. And you will learn how to clearly recognize the difference. At this moment, inside this silence, your avoidant partner is most likely feeling something you might not expect. They often feel relief. When communication stops from both sides, the avoidant nervous system usually understands this as safety. All the pressure they felt before, the expectation to reply, to emotionally participate, to be present, suddenly disappears. Research on attachment patterns shows that avoidant individuals often use what psychologists describe as deactivating strategies. When relationships start to feel too close or emotionally demanding, their nervous system reacts as if it is facing danger. So when you stop reaching out, their mind finally feels like it can relax and breathe again. However, this time is different from the previous times. They were used to feeling safe because you were always the one who came back. That allowed them to stay distant while still feeling wanted and desired. They felt in control. They believed you would always remain there. But when you also stop contacting them, that sense of control slowly begins to break. This is the moment when silence stops feeling comfortable for them, because relief never stays forever. Something else begins to appear, something they were not ready to face. And this stage reveals everything about whether this person is capable of building a real emotional bond, or if they were only comfortable with the idea of having you around. As time passes, that early relief slowly changes into something deeper. The relief begins to turn into curiosity, then confusion, and eventually fear. They start wondering why you are no longer chasing them. The silence that once felt like freedom begins to feel like rejection or loss. Their mind starts asking questions it never had to face before. Did they actually move forward with their life? Why are they not trying to fight for this connection anymore? What if I truly lost them this time? This is usually the stage where subtle tests begin to appear. They may watch your social media stories, react to older posts, or send small messages that look casual but carry hidden meaning. Messages like asking how you have been or mentioning something that reminded them of you. These are usually not sincere attempts to rebuild the relationship. They are small signals meant to check if you are still emotionally available. They want to know if the door is still open, and if they still have access to your attention without needing to be emotionally exposed. It is important to understand something very clearly. These small tests are usually not about deeply missing you. They are often about gaining control again. They are checking whether their emotional backup plan is still there. Without your effort and pursuit, they are forced to face something extremely frightening for an avoidant personality, which is the fear of being forgotten. While they are moving through this cycle of confusion and fear, something completely different is happening inside you. And this part is what truly decides how this entire situation ends. At the beginning, the silence causes pain. You feel hurt. You replay past memories again and again. You question whether you made the wrong decision by not reaching out. If you have anxious attachment tendencies, your mind pushes you strongly to fix everything, to reconnect, to keep the bond alive. But slowly, something starts to change. Without constantly trying to hold the relationship together, you regain emotional strength and energy. You begin to breathe more freely. The silence that once felt painful starts to feel like protection and calmness. You begin to rebuild your sense of value. You start seeing the relationship with more clarity. You notice how much emotional effort you were giving, how little you were receiving in return, and how often you were managing their feelings while ignoring your own emotional needs. Step by step, the silence becomes a quiet form of closure. This is where real emotional detachment begins. Not the kind where you secretly hope they notice your absence and return, but the kind where you honestly stop depending on them to choose you because you have already chosen yourself. This stage carries a strong truth. While you are healing and growing emotionally, they are slowly feeling the emotional effects of their defenses. They may experience loneliness, regret, nostalgia, and fear of disappearing from your memory. They might replay old memories and silently miss the connection, but they often remain too guarded to reach out openly. Reaching out would mean admitting they need you, and for an avoidant person, that can feel like losing control of themselves. Eventually, many avoidant individuals do return. Sometimes it appears as a small message, a simple comment, or a quiet attempt to step back into your life. These moments are rarely about simple conversation. They are usually meant to check if the door is still open. They want to know if you are still the same person who used to chase them. But his time is different from the past. By this stage, you are no longer emotionally trapped by their patterns. Their distance no longer feels mysterious or confusing. It starts to feel predictable. You can clearly recognize it as a protective behavior, a fear of emotional closeness hidden behind independence. This becomes the moment where you must make a decision, not based on hope, potential, or who they might become in the future, but based on who they are showing you they are in the present moment. When an avoidant person who is genuinely working on themselves reaches out after silence, you will notice responsibility. They acknowledge the distance that existed. They share their thoughts and reflections. They may not have complete answers, but they show effort and willingness to move closer to you even when it feels uncomfortable. But if they return with small signals, casual messages that do not lead anywhere, or conversations that stay shallow and avoid emotional depth, then that itself is the answer. What they are showing is that they can miss you and think about you, but they are not ready to do the difficult emotional work required to truly be present. No amount of waiting, space, or silence can change that, because this is not about strategy, it is about emotional ability. Your real strength appears when you stop reaching out not to influence them, but because you have healed emotionally. Your silence begins to represent true emotional independence. And this is what avoidant personalities often feel most strongly. For some avoidant individuals, this becomes a wake-up moment that starts their personal healing. They realize what they lost. They begin to work on themselves. They slowly understand that emotional closeness does not mean losing their identity. For others, they may run toward distractions, such as new relationships, work, hobbies, or anything that helps them avoid feeling what the silence is trying to teach them. That is not your failure. That is their personal decision. In every situation, silence becomes like a mirror that shows both your truth and their truth. So now, this is where you stand. You are inside the silence. And the real question is not whether they will contact you again. The real question is who you are becoming during this silence. Are you using this time to heal, to create strong boundaries, and to rebuild your identity and self-value? Or are you simply waiting in the silence, hoping they will return and validate your worth? In the end, what truly matters is not who sends the first message. What truly matters is who grows emotionally. For you, the silence can become self-respect and emotional freedom. For them, it becomes a direct confrontation with their fears and past emotional wounds. Silence does not destroy a genuine connection. It simply reveals whether the connection was strong enough to exist without constant chasing. And if it was not strong enough, then what you are losing is not real love. You are letting go of the exhausting responsibility of trying to keep someone interested in choosing you. So what happens next, when both of you stop contacting each other, is something deeply powerful. You get the opportunity to discover who you truly are without their presence, and that can become one of the strongest transformations of your life. If you found meaning or value in this message, remember to like and subscribe.